Hi, and welcome to GL training. This training session will be on a little bit more advanced topic on how to build your own OTBI report. So this training is really for users that are going to be responsible for providing information via the reporting tools in Oracle Financials. So this training session, like all the training sessions, I'm starting from the home area, which you can get to by clicking on the home icon. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the navigator icon over here on the left, upper left-hand part of the screen, and that's going to bring up my entire menu. And I'm going to click on, off to the right, I'm going to click on Reports and Analytics. So Oracle's going to bring you here, which is this area of the system is where you run and have access to build your own reports if you so desire. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Browse Catalog, and then if you're running reports, all the reports are stored over here in the folders. If you're building a new simple report, which is what I'm going to show you now, you click on New, just hover over New, and then click on Analysis. And what this is going to do is this is going to bring you to an area of the system that Oracle has provided with what are called subject areas, which are basically data that Oracle has arranged for users to go into and kind of drag and drop the components of the data that's sitting in these subject areas so that you can report to them. What I'm going to do now is I'm scrolling down to General Ledger, and there's one subject area here in the General Ledger that is going to be the most typical subject area people are going to use, which is called General Ledger Transactional Balances Real Time. If you click on that, what it's going to do, it's going to start you off so you can start to drag and drop columns in the report so you can build out your own report. So what I'm showing you here is kind of just a primer so people can get familiar with this tool and start to access the data in the database. And the typical reasons you would come here would be to look up balances or transactional information, usually to do reconciliations and research on your account balances. So what I'm going to do is just create a simple report that's going to show me accounts and balances against what I'm trying to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on this triangle next to account, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to either double click or drag and drop my concatenated segments, which will be my full GL string, into the column area. So I'm just going to double click on it. So it's, I want the concatenated segments, which is my full string, to be part of the report. And if there's any other components of the account, okay, after I pick the concatenated segments, I'm going to go in and pick my balances. So I'm going to hit balances, and then I'm going to hit base. And for this report, so this will show you all the balances you have access to. For this report, I'm going to pick beginning balance, period activity, and year to date. And then I'm going to add, just close that, and then I'm going to add time, but I just want to talk about scenarios. So the General Ledger only has actuals. There aren't any balances in the GL. Sorry, there aren't any budget balances in the GL, so you don't need to worry about scenario. If you wanted to, if we had budget versus actual, you could choose that, but we don't need to worry about that. I do want to add time, so I want to put accounting period name in this report. So it's a pretty simple report. It's got the full GL string, beginning, period net activity, and year-to-date balances, and it's going to have the time. All right, so I picked my columns. The next thing I want to do is I want to filter what data I want in this report. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little wheel and just hover over it, and then I'm going to click on filter. And this concatenated segment is the column I'm messing with right now. And you can see if you click on this operator, you can choose what data you want to choose. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a begins with, and I'm going to choose 535. So basically what I'm saying is run this report for company code 525. So that's how I did that. If I wanted to do something else to get a little tricky here, I could say contains any, if I wanted to run it for, let's say, an account, which is in the middle of the concatenated segment. So there's certain ways you could kind of play around with this tool to get the data you want. For now, I'm showing something pretty simple. Give me any concatenated segment value that starts with 535. And then the next thing I want to do is just run it for 1 month. So I'm going to run this same thing. I'm going to click on the wheel or hover over it, either way, and I'm going to click on filter. And in this case, I'm going to say is equal to, and here I'm just going to type in all caps Mar 19. So this is going to run it for March 19. Say OK. The next thing I need to do is hit results. So results is going to run the report. Hit results, and boom, I have the report. Here it is. And the next thing I'm going to do is download this to Excel. So I click on this icon here. I'm going to click this this down arrow. And then what I do is, you can choose Excel if you want, but what I do is I click on data and CSV. So this will ensure that you get all the columns, even if they repeat. If you do Excel, if it won't repeat the columns, it won't repeat the rows. So in order to repeat the rows, which is the way I like it, because then I can do pivot tables and such in Excel, I like to get it in the CSV format. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to download the report. Going to click on that. And here it is. This is the report I just built. It's in Excel. It's basically giving me what I need to go off and do whatever type of analysis I need to do for this data. So typically I would use these reports for reconciliations if I just need to pull some data to do a rec. And this is the tool I would use if I needed to research something with either GL balances or journal entries, which I'm going to show next. This is a really good tool to use. Going back to the report, if I wanted to save this report, I could either save it or do a save. So I'm going to save this using the save as, and I'm going to save this in my folder. So I'm not ready to share this with anybody yet, or it's just an analysis that I'm doing on my own. I'm just going to save it in my folder. I'll be the only one that actually has access to this if it's in my folder. I'm going to put in a name. I'm going to call this my own GL report. Hit OK, and it's going to save it into that folder. So that's it. If I wanted to share this with others, we could save it into a shared folder, but that's on another training session. So this is running a balances report out of the general ledger. The next topic I'm going to show you now is if I wanted to run a journals report. So that's in a different subject area. So I'm going to click on new again, hit analysis. Same thing, I'm going to go down to general ledger. And this time I'm going to choose a subject area called general ledger journals real time. Click on that. Same thing, I'm going to just kind of drag and drop whatever fields I want. So this is me doing a report on journal entries. So in this case, I want to see what journal batch it was. So I'm going to come down here. I want to see the journal batch description, and who created it. And then if I wanted to see information on the batch status, let's say, I want to see what the approval status is. I want to see the approval status description. And let's say I want to see the posting status. And now I'm going down to journal header. I want to see the header details. And let's say in this case I want to see the journal description, the journal name. And I also want to see the journal category. So I want to see the journal category name. And I don't want to see any of this. Let's say I want to see the ledger. Just give me the ledger name. And I would definitely want to see the journal lines. So give me the concatenated segment, which is the full GL string. And then in this case, I definitely want to see the debits and credits. So usually I'll look at the accounted debit and credit. So in this case, I want to see the entered. I usually pick the debit first, entered debit and entered credit. And maybe see some journal line details on this one. So let's say I want to see the journal line description. So that's really all I want to see in this report. So this basically tells me, journal batch in particular, who was creating the journal, who approved it, and other information about the journal entry. So this will be a good report if I'm kind of researching a journal entry. And then I wanted to see okay, so let's say I wanted to see all of the journal entries that have a certain approval status. So I could click on approval status description of let's say the batch, people are entering journal entries, but this one still requires approval. So I could pick on that status. And let's say I wanted to do it for my ledger. So if I'm in charge of a ledger, I want to say for my ledger, and let's say this is going to be for the US ledger. So I'm just going to choose it, bring it over, and say OK. And that's it. So I'm running this report for anything with an approval status of batch still requires approval in the US ledger, and let's see if that brings us any data. Going to hit results. And here it is. So this report has given me all of the journal entries that match that criteria. And then the next thing I normally do is download this to Excel. Again, I'm clicking this export, and I always use CSV. If you prefer Excel, that's fine, but CSV, the reason I like it is because it repeats all the rows for me. So I'm going to download it into CSV. It's going to put this in my drop-down area. I'm going to click that. And here's my report. So this report is giving me exactly what I asked for. And now I can bring this into the work I'm doing, whether it's an analysis or reconciliation, and start to see what it brought back. All right, that is the journal entry subject area. So those are really the two main subject areas that you're going to be using in the general ledger. There's going to be another training session or training video on the same type of thing with the accounts payable subject areas.